Welcome back to the Every 2 Week Show. I know it's only been a week since we last saw you, but we always come early on Valentine's Day. Our top story tonight is of global importance, one of passion, drama, and heartbreak. Yes, this episode is about the relationship between American dreamboat President Donald Trump and the hunky dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin. There are a lot of interconnected agents in this story and a lot of confusing Russian names, but we're going to try to give you a comprehensive view of the subversion and lies committed by the people Donald Trump chooses to surround himself with. And we're going to have some fun along the way. I'm Ethan Winglass, and this is From Russia with Love, brought to you by the Every 2 Week Show. In this episode, we'll introduce to you the assorted cast of characters and let you decide. Is this just new episodes of geopolitics turned reality show television, or is it actually time to shit your pants and start learning some Russian? In 2013, Trump tweeted, "Do you think Putin will be going to the Miss Universe pageant in November in Moscow? If so, will he become my new best friend?" Their bromance continued to blossom, and Donald was soon showcasing his friendship with the Kremlin, telling the National Press Club,
"I spoke indirectly and directly with President Putin,"
which is very different from Trump's statement showing here.
And that was the end of it. I never met Putin.
I've researched this one extensively, and knowing someone is not the same as not knowing someone.
Thank you, Ryan. That was Ryan Whittemore, reporting in the field. It's his first time. You're doing great, Ryan. So, without further ado, here are the 6 bachelors we will be discussing tonight. All once viable candidates for Putin's heart, yet now facing indictments, jail time, and worst of all, heartbreak. We'll start with Mr. Michael Flynn, a former 3-star general in the U.S. Army. In 2016, American spies intercepted a conversation between Russian intelligence agents where the agents discussed using Flynn and Paul Manafort to shape Trump's opinion of Russia. Concurrently, Flynn emailed one of Trump's campaign advisors saying, "There are a number of things happening and will happen this election via cyber operations by both hacktivists, nation states, and the DNC." So, Flynn knew that a foreign adversary was planning to undermine the will of the people and failed to immediately contact the FBI. In November 2016, after Trump's surprising election victory, Flynn was tapped as national security advisor by the president-elect. Democrats in the Senate opposed Flynn's nomination as national security advisor based on perceived conflicts of interest with Russia, but he was approved nonetheless. As national security advisor, Flynn began scheduling meetings with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. These conversations involved scaling back sanctions against Russia set in place by the Obama administration. But this wasn't the first time Kislyak and Flynn had discussed sanctions on Russia. The same day Obama signed the order, Kislyak called Flynn, who immediately called government official K.T. McFarland, who then emailed her colleague saying, "If there is a tit-for-tat escalation, Trump will have difficulty improving relations with Russia." On the surface, this is not too weird because one of Trump's campaign initiatives was to improve relations between the two countries. But then McFarland continues, which has just thrown the USA election to him. What a weird thing to say when the FBI is currently investigating whether or not Russia had thrown the USA election to anyone. These events prompted Acting Attorney General Sally Yates to raise a red flag about the misrepresentation of communication, claiming such fraternizing could open Flynn up to Russian blackmail. The end of Flynn's short love story is a tragic one. He pled guilty to making false statements about communicating with Russian officials. Months later, when he returned to the court, the judge said to Flynn, "Arguably, you sold your country out." Okay, let's move on to bachelor number 2. Tapped to be one of Trump's foreign policy advisors at the tender age of 28, George Papadopoulos had a brief but steamy professional affair with Joseph Mifsud, a man known to the public as the Professor. Now, I don't know if this was some sort of sapiosexual fantasy being played out for these 2 brain nerds, but really? The Professor? A Nancy Drew novel has better character names. So, Papadopoulos meets the professor in March 2016. Looking to spice things up in their romance, the prof introduces Papadopoulos to Olga Polonskaya, Vladimir Putin's alleged niece, and Ivan Timofeev, a connection from the Russian Ministry of Affairs. And it was the prof who had told Pop that Russia had covertly acquired info on Clinton in the form of hacked emails. Papadopoulos, giddy and excited like the 28-year-old boy he is, simply couldn't keep the information to himself and spilled the beans to an Australian diplomat while drinking at a bar. Crikey! In January of 2017, Pop lied to the FBI about communicating with Russia in a voluntary interview, stating his communications with the professor took place before his involvement with the Trump campaign. He also downplayed his communication with Putin's catfishing niece. After the interview, Pop deleted his Facebook and changed his phone number, thinking he could ghost the U.S. government. Shockingly, he was arrested soon after and pled guilty to lying to the FBI. After Papadopoulos' conviction, the professor, probably heartbroken, disappears. Okay, on to bachelor number 3, Mr. Michael Cohen, Trump's personal fixer and attorney. Here's an example of the types of issues Cohen would fix.
In 2015, Cohen made a deal with David Pecker, owner of AMI Media Group, in order to purchase and suffocate any bad press about Donald Trump. Think Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels.
In October of 2015, Felix Sater, a former mobster and current real estate developer, told Cohen that one of Putin's top finance guys might be interested in funding a Trump tower in Moscow. In this communication, Sater indicated to Cohen that once Putin was on board, the deal would go forward. These dealings led to Trump signing a letter of intent to build the tower, which included a licensing fee of hundreds of millions of dollars paid to the Trump organization. Okay, so this isn't that weird because it's just business, right? But where did all that money go? I have some sort of vague memory of Trump bragging about financing his own campaign, but who knows, maybe that was some lucid dream I had.
I'm financing my own campaign.
You know, I'm self-funding my campaigns.
I'm doing one thing that I don't know that I get much credit for, but I must say a lot of people do like it. I'm self-funding.
In a later email, Sater wrote to Cohen, "Buddy, our boy can become president of the USA and we can engineer it. I will get all of Putin's team to buy in on this. I will manage this process." Buddy? Our boy? What a weird thing to say. And what a lame thing to say when orchestrating the distribution of world power. And besides, I thought this relationship was about a Trump tower in Moscow. A business deal with no presidential implications. Anyway, Cohen's Essential Consultants LLC received payments from various Russian oligarchs from January to August 2017. And the day after Trump's inauguration, a Russian billionaire awarded Cohen $1 million for a consulting contract. What the fuck? Why is Russia giving Cohen all this money? Well, Cohen's Essential Consultants LLC is actually the same company that was used to pay off Stormy Daniels. So, Cohen founded a company that specialized in receiving and giving out shady payments. He might as well have opened a laundromat that specialized in dry cleaning Adidas tracksuits. The result of this transcontinental love affair? Cohen pleads guilty to numerous accounts of tax evasion, falsifying submissions to banks, campaign finance violations, and was even accused of coordinating false congressional statements with Trump's legal team. And because the American people love a good heroine's tale, especially ones involving porn stars and Playboy models, the Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal investigations culminated in a statement from Cohen that read, "I participated in this conduct, which on my part took place in Manhattan for the principal purpose of influencing the presidential election." So, Cohen is headed to prison on March 6th, although he has decided to attempt to clear his conscience by cooperating and being willing to testify to Congress. But you know, fucking with democracy is something that just doesn't wash off easily. Okay, let's get back up to speed. So far, we've had Flynn, Pop Daddy, and Cohen. Now, let's get a little bit raunchier. I call this segment the Devil's Three-Way. three men intertwine in Trump's Russia business. Bachelor's Paul Manafort, as seen on the scroll bar earlier, Batman villain Roger Stone, and a man who desperately needs a better beard, Rick Gates. Oh, that's better. Okay. Paul Manafort, who would become Trump's campaign chairman, and Roger Stone, Trump's former campaign advisor, were childhood friends who went into business together in 1980, where they initially established their relationship with Donald Trump. Now, fast forward to 2006. Rick Gates joins Manafort's new firm and eventually becomes Trump's deputy campaign chairman, or as Manafort likes to call it, the deputy to the campaign chairman. In March 2016, Gates requested proposals from an Israeli company that would gather intelligence and manipulate social media to help Trump defeat opponents. He was also involved in money laundering that was done to hide payments from Putin-friendly Ukrainians, and he lied to the FBI about details from a meeting between Manafort and pro-Russia lobbyists in the Ukraine. Gates is eventually charged with conspiracy against the United States. He gives in and pleads guilty in February 2018. Now, let's move on to one of the big boys, starting with Roger Stone. In order to understand Roger Stone, we have to first look at the details surrounding the hacks during the election.
In March of 2016, Hillary campaign staff and volunteer emails were hacked. Not long after the initial hack, phishing emails were sent to John Podesta, Hillary's campaign chairman. Now, him being an old man and not really knowing the difference between a real email and a fake email, he went ahead and opened it and released a treasure trove of DNC documents and other information.
Remember when the professor told Pop the Russians had info on Clinton? Well, now we know how they got it. Months later, the DNC realized they had been hacked, a realization that only came when the hacking team Guccifer 2.0, largely thought to be run by Russian intelligence, began releasing stolen material. Now, for those of you watching at home who for some reason think that hacking is not a big deal, consider the fact that information was stolen from 500,000 voters, as well as those involved in Clinton's campaign. That is a lot of personal information. There is also the ambiguous Organization 1, which told Guccifer to send any stolen information regarding Clinton to them so they could use it to create rifts in the Democratic Party. So, things are released and people react. This continues to happen for quite some time. But what's interesting is certain overlaps in timing. And this is where we come back to Roger Stone. Stone's role in this love story can be seen through his communication and relationship with Guccifer, WikiLeaks, and of course, Trump. Does anyone remember October 7th, 2016? If not, you may remember when our Republican candidate for President of the United States was heard on tape saying, "Grab 'em by the..." Yes, October 7th was the release of the Access Hollywood tape. But even more interestingly, it was also the day that Jerome Corsi, a pro-Trump conspiracy theorist, claims that Stone contacted him. Stone, aware of the impending tape release, told Corsi, "If you have any way to get to Assange to start dropping, tell him to start dumping." Okay, sidebar. Julian Assange is the founder of WikiLeaks, the platform used by Guccifer to release the stolen emails and information from the Clinton campaign. So, back to October 7th. Before the physical release of the tape, the Department of Homeland Security and Director of National Intelligence released a statement about their confidence in the role that Russia played in the compromised emails. 30 minutes later, the Access Hollywood tape was released, which made Trump look bad to anyone who was not raised by an R-rated Johnny Bravo. 1 hour after the release of the tape, WikiLeaks published Podesta's stolen emails. Stone was also a feature on InfoWars multiple times leading up to the 2016 election. Yes, InfoWars, the Alex Jones show, which made the claim that tap water turned frogs gay.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap.
On the show, Stone often belittled the relationship between Russia and the hacks. His evidence for these statements was that it couldn't be Russia because it was Guccifer. Strange, as the Special Investigation Team has strong suspicions that Guccifer 2.0 is run by Russian intelligence, suspicions that seem closer and closer to being confirmed with every new piece of evidence. In late January of this year, Stone was arrested at his home in Florida and charged with obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and providing false statements. Upon leaving the courthouse on a $500,000 bond, he immediately turned the whole thing into a reality show spectacle with videos like this.
Oh my God, I'm busted. Drinking Russian vodka. Mueller, arrest me. Libtards.
Lastly, Stone has a tattoo of well-known crook Richard Nixon on his back. So now, he has two punchable faces. And now, moving on to our sixth and final bachelor, Mr. Paul Manafort. Manafort's relationship with Russia goes back the farthest. Before he was involved with Trump's campaign, Manafort traveled at least 18 times to and from Moscow on business. In June 2005, Manafort pitched his consulting services to Oleg Deripaska, a Russian oligarch with close ties to Vlad. These services included strategies for influencing politics, business, and news coverage in the U.S. and other territories. Later, Deripaska made a $10 million loan to a company controlled by Manafort. Manafort's political ties to Russia got deeper in 2007 when he began doing work for a pro-Putin Ukrainian politician's campaign. This candidate went on to become president, though 2 years later he was overthrown for human rights violations. Is that true?
Yes.
So, that shows where Manafort's moral compass lies. Turning now to his role with Trump and his administration. In May of 2016, Manafort became Trump's campaign chairman and chief strategist. 2 months later, as the Clinton email hacks were occurring, Manafort sends emails suggesting the administration give Deripaska a briefing. These emails involving deals with the Ukraine were enough for criminal charges to be discussed before the special counsel's investigation into Russian collusion began. 1 month later, Manafort resigns due to his controversy over financial connections to the Ukrainian president previously mentioned. The same day he resigns, Manafort creates Summer Breeze LLC, which incurs $3.5 million from Spruce Capital, a company co-founded by a developer of various Trump hotel projects, and also backed by a Russian billionaire. The investigation of Manafort leads to him pleading guilty and entering a plea deal with the special counsel. However, he was later accused of lying and breaking this agreement. What a surprise. Manafort now sits in jail, where he will most likely stay for the rest of his life. Clearly, Paul Manafort is just a guy addicted to doing the wrong thing. Now, we at the Every 2 Week Show do not actually believe that Trump and Putin are engaged in some romantic love affair. Hey, will you too? But we do have some circumstantial evidence to back up Trump's sexual preferences. And although we have not yet heard a conclusion from the special counsel, there's just too much funny business going on to assume that this was all just a set of unconnected, innocent coincidences. Our main objective was to introduce our viewers to this topic and the cast of characters involved. 6 men once pleading for Don and Vlad's love are now pleading for sympathy from the living legend, Robert S. Mueller III. And although this investigation has cost the American public $26 million, the funds seized have amounted to over $29 million. So, it's running at a profit. Hashtag art of the deal. For everyone here at the Every 2 Week Show, I'm your host, Ethan Winglass, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Ish.